I basically wanted some sort of a trail condom, so to speak. This stuff has really been a game changer for us. And we really more so are looking for something so that we could build more trails at the park and not kill ourselves financially. To be able to have a place where, a mom or mom and a dad can come ride with their kids, man, that's just so powerful. Hell yeah.
Welcome to Trail Effect. I am your host, Josh Blum. Trail Effect is a show that dives into the stories behind trails, the communities that embrace trails, and the people who rely on trails as a way of life. The goal of this show is to turn the stories you will hear from our guests into useful knowledge that can be applied to your community while providing some entertaining and inspirational content. Guests on Trail Effect include trail builders, board members, community leaders, volunteers, and regular people who really enjoy trails. For episode 188, we have Jarrod Harris and Josh Cohan back on from Jarrod's Place Bike Park. We cover a handful of topics, including what Jarrod and Josh have learned since opening Jarrod's Place Bike Park, and we went deep in all things trail armor. The first line of defense for protecting your float trails, jump lines, and berms. There's a lot of great things that Jarrod and Josh have learned through their development of trail armor, but the most important aspect of all of this is that they're taking a chance and pushing innovation. And as we all know, innovation breeds innovation, and this is definitely a radical innovation. Cooley Creative is the title sponsor for this episode. They design and build custom websites, as well as help companies with branding, photography, and e-commerce. Cooley Creative was started in Wisconsin, but is now based out of Bend, Oregon. Jarrod from Cooley Creative is a friend of mine. We've traveled together on multiple mountain bike trips, and sometimes he sends it. For more information about Cooley Creative, head on over to www.dudejustsendit.com. Yes, that's right, www.dudejustsendit will get you to the Cooley Creative website, so check it out. Kettle Mountain Apparel, the brand that was built by travelers, hikers, trail runners, and mountain bikers, with the motto of venture far, laugh hard. While I definitely use Kettle Mountain Apparel for mountain biking, Kettle Mountain is also my go-to choice for daily wear as it is super functional and comfortable. Kettle Mountain Apparel also offers a lifetime gear repair program with the goal of extending the life of their products while reducing waste in the process. If you ever damage any of your apparel, Kettle Mountain will repair it for free for life. By using the affiliate link found in the show notes or on the Trail Effect website, a small commission will come back to the Trail Effect podcast, which helps to cover the cost of expenses for keeping this show going. Now on to the Trail Effect with Jarrod and Josh.
Hell yeah. Yeah. Cool.
But yeah, so I was looking up the history of Dalton, Georgia, but let's bring people up to speed. So the last time we recorded an episode was episode 91 with both you two, Jarrod Harris and Josh Cohan, and that would have been back in October of 2022. That was a while ago.
Man. Yeah.
And Jarrod's Place has been booming ever since.
Yeah, it's been good. It's been it's like you never can get everything done all at once, but it's kind of cool because, in theory, it's like in the beginning, it would be like, man, it'd be awesome to have everything done all at once. But then I've just kind of learned, I think Josh can attest to this too, that like kind of cool just to kind of drip improvements because people, if you give people everything all at once, they just get, they get complacent. They get, they take it for granted, and that's just human nature. So I've kind of learned that like it's kind of nice that we go at the pace that we can afford to go, and we just kind of drip little improvements every week, and it just kind of keeps people on their toes and keeps them appreciative, I think.
Yeah, for sure. What do you got on that, Josh?
Yeah, man, it's been a huge undertaking, and it's really cool just being able to know. Sorry, my dog is barking naturally. It's been a huge undertaking, but it's been awesome. I mean, a lot of things that we've learned, a lot of things that we understand now that we didn't know then. And I think the biggest thing that we can take away from it is just trying to build patterns because, it's just such a new, business model that there's no real patterns to be had. So it's just kind of holding on to the seat of your pants sometimes, but just having to innovate. And it's cool because like through time, we've made so many changes to where it's kind of become a really good system to where everyone just really works well together. The trail team is able to get a lot done quickly, and we're able to, just really where we used to have like 10 people trying to build a trail, it's like two of us now. There's a lot of refinement, which has been really cool. And it's just cool to see the overall community grow as we've been building on the park and hearing feedback and kind of building off that as well.
Well, you took the leap of buying 200 plus acres, back it would have been, was that in 2021 that you bought the land and then you opened in 2022?
Technically, yeah. I think we started building in 20. Is that right, Josh? I'm trying to remember.
We started the negotiations of the land in like October of 2020. We closed on it in March of 21. And we started, literally, we were handed the keys, and the same day we were already out there. So,
well, there's a funny story behind that I think would be worth noting is, when we started out there and we had this deal locked down, I think that property had sat for, I want to say like 3 years. Nobody even messed with it. Nobody touched it. Nobody cared about it. And I think it was the week that we were closing on the property. Or I don't know, not closing on the property, but the week that we signed the contract on the property. That week, mind you, this property sat for 3 years, no interest. The week that we signed, the guy across the street's trying to buy it. So, and there's another like big lot across the street, which, would have been awesome to have. It's like another, I think it's like 140 acres or something, which would have been really cool to have. But he ended up buying that. And then, of course, we got the goodies. But, it's just the type of topography nobody else would want, which is great for a bike park because, a lot of people don't want a side of a mountain, It's, it's weird. But I think everything, just the stars aligned. It all kind of fell into place. But what was so funny about the whole thing is we had started building out there, not realizing that there was a title issue because the county that we're in just had I think there was a fire or something and some records got burned up or something like that. Josh can chime in a second and, if I'm missing something, but apparently there was like a title issue. So we're out there just already like just blowing through money building this place that we technically don't even really have the keys to yet. And that went on for like almost a year, it seems like. But the good thing about it was, it was a little dicey and we were like, it'll all work out. It'll be fine. But we really didn't 100% know. And we had already been breaking ground, building trails, so we were just assuming this title issue would get taken care of. And then the good thing about it is we really didn't have to start making payments that whole time. So we had like a whole year basically of just not even having to make any payments yet, which was a plus, but it was also, kind of scary.
I mean, from the time that we went into negotiations, the holdup was that there was a section of land that had like a lien on it, and the title history only goes back, I think it's like 80 years is normal for something like that. And it happened to be like 83 years was what the lien was for. And the lady who had owned the land, she ended up having to get a survey done for both our land and the land across the street. She owned both. And come to find out that she was the one that it was liened back to just because it reverted to her. So this whole time, no one could figure out what was going on. And they just had to go an extra 3 years to find out that it belonged to her. But instead, she ended up spending tens of thousands of dollars for a survey.
Yeah. So that was kind of cool to get a big survey like that because those are not cheap.
Yeah. And I suppose when, you're trying to probably use every inch of property that you can for your bike park to maximize the space. So knowing your actual property lines is pretty important. And rather than guessing between, some old stakes that rebar or whatever they use for corner markers, that are 100 plus years old.
Oh, we would have never saw those.
They might have came out in a scoop of dirt, right?
Maybe. Yeah. But it's funny, you'd think like 200 almost 230 acres would be enough. And then it's like, once you get 230 acres, you're like, man, it'd be so nice if we had like 1,230 acres.
Yeah.
Yep.
So what's been going on so we talked back in 2022. What are some of the things that have like really popped up as like lessons learned between, opening this place and now we're going into, spring of 2025? A lot's been done. I'm sure many improvements have been made. We're going to talk about probably one of the most significant improvements in a little bit, but what are some of the stuff that maybe are things that people might not know about in terms of things to think about when running a bike park that you guys learned?
So much. Yeah, Josh, I'll let Josh kind of give his perspective and then I'll give my perspective because there's so much. Yeah.
Yeah, really just infrastructure, honestly. Just having a network of like service roads everywhere has been the biggest like thing that we've realized that you need more than anything. Especially when you're transferring machines or just if someone gets hurt or if you're trying to make quick fixes to certain areas, like really just all the infrastructure of all the little side roads that people don't even realize exist there. And then just maintaining them. And then also just really understanding like the lay of the land, and being able to manipulate, the steeper stuff to be able to get to people if there is an incident or there is trail maintenance needed versus, the lower section, which is much easier to manipulate and deal with. Most people that have been to the park understand, our drop off is halfway. The infamous question is, will the truck ever go to the top? And the reality is no, because of just how steep and unsafe the upper section would be to do that. And when you get up there to the top, it's not like you can just always just take a machine to the top and go dig away. There's just massive boulders everywhere. I mean, it is a mountain. So I'd say like the biggest thing that I like, take away from just like learning about a bike park and understanding the infrastructure is just the network of like roads you need to have and side roads just to be able to get in and out of places, to be able to easily access stuff. And then also just like the basic requests of like going from our shop to the pickup, which we just built a new trail, which has been forever needed since we opened. A lot of people complain about, having to pedal over, which is cool because now no one will ever complain because it went from being this climb trail, which you would call it in quotations, to now a downhill trail to get over to the shuttle pickup, which is awesome for downhill bikes, families with smaller kids, all that kind of stuff. And, you think about those things, but you don't really like realize how important it is until it's happened numerous times where people are like, oh, it'd be awesome to be able to have our kids, be next to us instead of all of us having to walk up this hill. And being able to give people that opportunity now is really awesome.
Yeah, I think I was gonna quick play off one thing that Josh said, which is, your shuttle drop off is only going halfway up, which is still like what, 450 feet?
I don't know exactly, but it's up. It's a good bit.
About 450, 475, somewhere in there.
Yeah, so that's the top of a lot of regular bike parks in today's world as it is. And then if you pair that with the fact that you just said there's boulders above that, you get a super diverse experience.
Very much so.
Yeah. The way that the topography lays out there, up above that, it starts to get steep pretty quick. And yeah, there's no way to safely get a truck all the way up there. It'd be insanely expensive to do that. And then it would eat into the flow of all the trails. You would end up having these road crossings, which is something that is super, super annoying to me personally. It's not something most people even think about until they're starting to deal with it. People just don't think about that kind of stuff. I think about it obviously because I'm looking at it more from a viewpoint of like an overall experience of creating an awesome bike park and an awesome experience. But people just immediately go, oh, why don't you go to the top? Well, we don't want you to go to the top because not everybody can ride everything at the top. You go up there and get yourself in trouble. Now we're going to have a harder time trying to get you out of there because it's super steep. And, when you're coming down the mountain and you've got a dislocated freaking hip or, broken femur or something, you probably would, be like, yeah, maybe I shouldn't have probably gone up there. So really we only want people to go up there that really even need to go up there. And the way that the park's designed, And the loop system with the shuttle system, it's so unbelievably efficient that you can get so many more laps in than you can get most anywhere. I don't think that you can get as many laps in anywhere else as you can get there. And just from the shuttle drop off, we got enough room. We could put 15, 20 more trails if we wanted to. I mean, yeah, we'd have some trail crossings, obviously, but you're talking, I mean, who's going to go ride a park and ride 50 trails in a day? I mean, that's just, no one's doing that, but that's just human nature. People are going to bitch about whatever, if you could have 3,000 foot of elevation, and if your shuttle only goes 2,995 feet, people are going to be bitching going, well, the shuttle doesn't go to the top. Like, well, yeah, sorry, you lost out an extra, 5 feet, but that's just how people are, So it's like, at the end of the day, people just need to be grateful that they got a fucking place to ride. That's how I feel. Sorry, I probably shouldn't have dropped the F-bomb, but
oh, you can drop F-bombs all day long on this one.
It's like, be fucking appreciative that somebody did the work to build a thing for you to fucking ride, or go ride all the free bullshit that you can. There's tons of free stuff you can go ride. It's not, it's fun, it's fine. It's cool. It gets people into the sport. But, obviously we're trying to do something at a different level. So yeah, I don't know. I get annoyed with it sometimes, but for the majority, like 99% of everybody's like super grateful, super, thankful. And if anybody is a bitch about it, then, we just don't ever see them again. So bye. That's how I'll look at it.
To put on top of like what I said earlier about like infrastructure, like we realized going into our second year that like a lot of people didn't like going to the top because if there was a push or whatever. So, I mean, we ended up widening and flattening out our upper climb trail, which now, I mean, if you have an e-bike, it literally takes, we've timed it 4 minutes to go from the shuttle drop off to the very top. And if you have a regular bike, whether you push or pedal, which by the way, I've pedaled it on my regular bike numerous times, it only takes about 12 minutes. And the thing is for that extra 12 minutes of, pedaling, you get another 400 plus feet of elevation change. So, and the cool thing is that like, we realized that was a big ask for a lot of people, or a lot of people were asking us for that. So we made those changes. And I mean, it's made a huge difference. I mean, from the day we finished that upper climb trail change to now, I mean, that upper section gets used so much more. And the other thing is, we realize, okay, well, there's a lot of people who don't want to go to the top. So like, how can we make a more efficient bike park with, the loop system that we have and people getting dropped off at the midway? We've just added different things to the midway to where most people don't even ever want to go to the top because there's just so much to ride from the midway and so many options that are really good. And then there's also a lot of connectors. Like everything in our park has some sort of a connection and it's like interwoven with each other with all the trails. And we did that to make sure that you could, you can kind of create your own ride, like you have the opportunity to ride 3 different trails from midway to bottom, and you could not ride the same 3 trails and ride 3 different trails the next time you get up there to the midway, which has been pretty cool. So just adding on to different spots of the park with our newer trails to be able to interweave all the other trails. So that way you can kind of like, you're your own chef. You get to create your own, your own masterpiece of what you enjoy riding versus just being stuck to one trail, going down every time. And then you're like, well, maybe I want to ride a different trail. Well, now I can ride 3, 4 trails in one lap versus just one trail. So that's been pretty cool.
Yeah. And I don't remember the exact numbers, but I've had Sean Leader on the show a couple times, and he's got Southern Gravity, which builds shuttle trucks, right? I'm sure he's probably built your shuttle trucks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But he's throwing out some pretty impressive numbers. You'd have to go back and listen to that show about what the capacity of a shuttle park using shuttle trucks is versus an actual chairlift operation. And I don't think people really understand how efficient they can be, especially when they're set up like your place is set up.
Go ahead, Jarrod. You got it. You got the floor.
No, I was just going to say, like, yeah, people don't think about that. They just, they don't understand you're going to get like a third the amount of laps in. But, if your thing is like, rides and snow cones or whatever, cool. But we're a mountain bike park. So, it's like, do you want more laps and you want to go down more trails? Then, yeah, it's going to be way better than a chairlift with a line out the ass that you got to wait, 3 hours for and spend however much money. We're just trying to get people as many laps as possible, do it as affordably as possible because, if we are in business, then, more people are happy, more families are happy, just, everybody's happy. But yeah, for us to get a lift, Jesus Christ, I can't imagine the amount of stress involved with that. Now we got to bring in a bunch of people who just more liability, more people who don't ride, who aren't in the community that just want to ride a chairlift. It's like go to freaking Six Flags, if you want to do that.
Yeah, or they can go up to Sevierville, Tennessee.
I mean, there's other places you can go. Yeah, I don't know all the places right now. There's a new bike park opening up every week, but yeah, it's just for us. Like we're just more. This is a passion project, and we just want to ride. A chairlift would be amazing. I mean, yeah, we're not. No one, no one's gonna fight you over it. Like, pay for a chairlift. As long as we don't have to pay for it, cool. We've already got stuff to pay for.
Let's get into your lessons learned, Jarrod. We kind of skipped over that when we started getting into some of the statistics in the mid-mountain drop-off versus the top drop-off. Let's get into what you've learned over the last 3 years of owning the official Jarrod's Place versus the unofficial Jarrod's Places from prior to Jarrod's Place.
Well, big thing, I think, not just for me, but for all of us, like Josh, the crew, everything. It's like, you have to really change your perspective when you're building for other people. And, it's easy to get selfish and want to build things the way that you would want to build them just because, A, it's faster. You're not moving as much dirt. Most everything would just be a gap. Gaps look cooler anyway in photos and videos and stuff. So they make you feel better when you're jumping gaps. But, for a park, it's like, yeah, you got to start thinking in terms of letting people get better at riding their bikes, and ultimately that's what people want. I mean, we got a lot of diversity coming to the park now. I mean, at first it was kind of more older guys, and hence why we have a trail named Senior Discount. But which ironically, pretty funny. It's probably one of the more popular trails. But yeah, just changing the your perspective a little bit and trying to build because it's not about us. Once you're building a park, it's about the customer. It's about, and I don't even really look at them as customers. This is a surrogate family for me because I never had a family. So I've always like dreamed of just having a compound, essentially. I didn't know what that compound would look like. It's just kind of, I've been malleable enough in life to just let it be what it's going to be. But I mean, I used to think I was going to be a big BMX race promoter and take BMX to the next level and run pro races. And, and then mountain biking just started getting cooler and cooler. And so now here we are, now there's e-bikes and all that. But yeah, I think it's just really letting yourself build in a way that maybe you normally wouldn't. And then really listening to feedback from people too. And the reward with all that is like, you get more trails that people can ride, and watching people get into it and seeing, dads and moms out there with their little kids riding the same trails. That's the kind of stuff that just means that means the world to me. That really like is just amazing. And I don't know. I think that's the biggest thing, because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what you have in terms of amenities. You got to have fun trails. So that's our big mission right now, is just to, over the winter, try to build a couple more green trails. So we've got even more options. So when a green rider comes to the park, they've got just, 5, 6, 7 green trails that they can ride, and then give those progressive stepping stones along the way. And we've watched people come out there and be, a pretty decent rider or kind of a shit rider. And then now they're awesome and kicking ass. And it's awesome to see them progress and just to see the joy in their face. And I don't know. I love it. I love seeing that, that's the kind of stuff that makes me happy.
Yeah. Is that where we segue into your latest endeavor and how that plays into all this?
The trail armor? Yeah. Trail armor is kind of it was just a necessity, really. Like, I kind of knew, like, when we first started building, just from, having to do all this maintenance myself since 2012, I just knew how, just one trail, just maintaining one trail, even with people that volunteer to come out and work with you. It's just too much. It's too much to keep it in good condition. So I knew there had to be a solution. And knowing that we're in the carpet capital of the world, I started the process of like reaching out to carpet manufacturers. Like it took me probably 8 months, I think, before I actually got a manufacturer to actually talk to me. And yeah, I was just lucky enough that none of the big manufacturers would talk to me, but I got this one guy to talk to me, and super nice guy. He's been unbelievably helpful for us. But, he didn't really totally understand what I was trying to do. But, I knew from years of experience of riding like BMX, dirt jumps, and, just throwing different multiple ugly pieces of carpet over things. And some of them are thick and slow you down, and some of them aren't. I knew that they worked, but I basically wanted some sort of a trail condom, so to speak. And I knew it was going to have to be all derivative of the carpet industry. So, and I think that's what's funny is people don't understand. They just see what we've got down and they go, oh, your carpets, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, no, they're not really you can't buy this anywhere. So, we've literally taken all of these different materials and tested them for 2 years to figure out like the backings, the toppings. We needed something that was grippy, that you could ride in the rain. You can ride on freeze thaw, through super dry moon dust. I mean, this stuff has really been a game changer for us. And we really more so are looking for something so that we could build more trails at the park and not kill ourselves financially, because there's just not enough money in this business to do what we're doing at the scale that we're doing and be profitable. There's just not. So there has to be a solution. And so I knew real quick we had to figure this solution out.
Was trail prophylactics a name that you thought of first?
No, but kind of, but prophylactics, maybe not, but like, I kind of like that.
When I first, I remember when I saw the first post, or at least the first post that I saw on it, I thought it was genius. Obviously, you put something out new in the world, people are going to hate on it. And I think by and large, I was combing through some of the comments again last night before this interview. And I think in the past, I saw, a bunch of the negative stuff. And we'll say that came from some of the usual suspects within this world. But at the same time, there was a lot, and I mean overwhelmingly amount of positive feedback. I think it's misunderstood in some degrees. So maybe you could talk about what it's not for also, to kind of help dispel what people think you're doing and what you're really doing.
Josh, we'll let Josh talk about that.
Ask the question one more time. I'm sorry.
Oh, maybe you could talk about what trail armor isn't for. Obviously, I don't know this answer because you haven't said it yet, but I'm assuming you're not going to carpet the world, every single rake and ride, Lomer steep trail, and turn it into like, a Rug Doctor Express.
No, not the Rug Doctor Express. And for all those asking how we vacuum our carpets, it's called a Steel BR800X. But no, so, I think the cool thing about the trail armor is that it's an application that we use in places that are more, let's say, wide open. You're going to see it on our flow trails. And then we have a hybrid trail, which we've really revamped recently, called Backwoods. And man, it's the perfect example of like where you would use it and where you wouldn't use it. So like on Backwoods, we have a lot of steeper sections with like huge rock gardens and like really cool features that you don't want to use it on because you want it to feel natural and you want it to be natural. Any of our upper trails, we don't use it. Any of our true downhill trails, we don't use it. We're not trying to take away from the purest vibe of mountain biking, but the reality of it is, like Jarrod said, to be, successful in this world, not everyone's dirt is treated equally, A, and B, if you're cutting a big jump trail, it's pretty exposed to all of the elements. And, we had our go at trying to do the whole in and out with the tarp situation. And that was just a horrible, we just threw all of our tarps away at this point. I mean, like we literally took all of the hard work we did mounting them on these PVC pipes, and we just literally took it and crunched it up with the excavator during all the snow situation and threw it in the dumpster. And the trail armor, we put it down on these bigger trails, which, to be fair, like, we've seen all the comments, and it's funny, like as soon as someone comes and rides it, they realize how special it is. It's not just a piece of carpet. It's years of development and testing and, changing and, seeing where it works best, what roll qualities it has, how we could get it tighter to where it could roll faster. And like, Jarrod was saying, senior discount, for instance, which is our most popular trail, that trail gets ridden so much that you were having to resurface it almost 3 times a year. And to give you an idea, like a resurface is 2 full weeks of work for 4 guys, Now we've had it down for, I think, I don't even know, like probably 6 months at this point, to where we've had the entire trail armored. We have a few flat bottoms that we had some issues with that were consistent with issues, and we just put in turf stone paver in those flat bottoms. But otherwise, we trail armored the entire trail, and we don't even think about it anymore. I mean, when Hurricane Helene came through, we got 9.5 inches of rain. Literally the next day we were riding it. Like, it is truly it's a really magnificent thing from the standpoint of like protecting a flow trail. And then, like I said, backwoods, we have it in choice spots, which are bigger features that are open, which would be considered a flow trail feature. But in this downhill trail, so really a hybrid trail, and you'll see pieces of it here and there, but, the biggest thing that we utilize it for is berms at this point. The lips and landings, we do obviously use it through those, but, the berms, it's just, if anyone knows and they're a trail builder, they understand keeping a berm fresh at all times is almost impossible, right? And then, like, when it rains, the rain builds speed going down that berm, and then it just rain ruts everything, which pulls up rocks and all sorts of stuff. And it's to where now you can ride a trail while it's pouring down rain, not damage the surface, have a consistent riding feel, and also eliminate mud, dust, loose rocks, all of the above. And you have this now not so rideable trail, or what was a not rideable trail, that is now a totally rideable trail, all weather, no questions asked. And it allows us to go do other things around the park to where we're able to play not catch up, but get ahead now, as to where we were only playing catch up. I mean, that was a huge, huge benefit from us taking the time and being able to test these things. And, to be fair, Jarrod, had wanted to put some carpet on a berm on one of our trails called Kids Eat Free. And everyone was bitching, everyone's like, oh, this shit sucks. This is terrible. What is this? And mind you, I mean, it was terrible at first because the carpet we were using was just god awful.
Well, it was like the cheap stuff from Home Depot. And I was like, no, we just need to at least start somewhere and start just, trying to figure this out. But yeah, but I mean, we knew there was something there after we put it down and started riding it. We knew that we were on the precipice of something.
Yeah, it was huge. I mean, and the thing was, it didn't have a fair shot. It was like really dry when we put it down. It just wasn't the best test spot. So we ended up testing a landing on senior discount, which is probably the most, like I said, it is the most popular trail at our park. And that landing went from being absolutely just destroyed after a week of being revamped to holding up for a while. And it took a while because Jarrod had to end up, reaching out to all these big manufacturers, and no one really reached back out until we met this one gentleman. And man, he would just give us all sorts of samples and just be creative with it. And that one landing on senior discount is like the perfect test sample because who ride over the entire thing. And through time, we just tried different backs, different toppings, different backings with different toppings, just backing, just all sorts of different things just to see, okay, what works best, what doesn't work, what rides well. The big concern from a lot of people have been like, oh, is it going to flow well or is it going to slow you down? And I mean, the biggest thing that we learned through this process as of now is just, it works way better than you would actually think, especially for the flow trails that are exposed. You go into the summer months at our park and it's just a dust bowl. Now you're not wearing goggles behind somebody, which is pretty cool. So that's been huge.
And you're rolling over what would be moon dust, and it's the rolling speed is there always. Even in the rain, even in the freeze thaw, the rolling speed's there. It's just an absolute game changer for us. And I mean, easily, I don't know what the math is going to work out to be, but I know off the top of my head, very conservatively, I can say over the next 12 months, it's going to save us easily six figures in maintenance. So that's money that can go back into the park and to other stuff,
Well, I'm going to bring out the E word, and that's not e-bike. That's something different. I'm going to bring out the environmental word. And the reason why I'm going to bring it out is because erosion isn't just from rain. There is a thing in the world called dust erosion. And there are places in this world that plant trees for farming situations to try to reduce how much dust erosion there is from wind. And so when we talk about trail armor, we're not just talking about wet weather applications. We're also talking about dry weather applications. And you just said moon dust. So it's actually helping to reduce soil erosion in multiple ways.
Yeah. It's been huge. What's cool is that we've been able to work with several state parks now. One of the types of trail armor, because we have several types of it now, is an eco-friendly version, which doesn't release microplastic into the environment. It also, what's cool about it is that if you ever had an issue with it and you had to replace a small section of carpet, it's recyclable. So you're making money back on your investment. And also on top of that, you're protecting the environment because you're not having to keep bringing in more dirt and reintroducing new dirt, or you're not having to tear up the ground to fix the ground all the time, which was a huge concern for actually a trail system in Florida that we're working with, which we had to send several different samples to a test lab for them, which our manufacturer tests everything in a lab, but they had to do their own testing through their state lab, and it passed, which is huge because that allows, where most state parks don't allow any sort of outside material to come in. Now you have a material that's available to help protect an investment where, Jarrod and I, we deal with all these people now that are customers that are concerned about having to have volunteers come out and work on the same thing over and over. In reality, is the same thing we have to do, but we're paying versus those people are just helping for free. They're not having to work on the same section of trail over and over and over. And it also helps promote, watershed where, you might have silt and it'll obviously choke out your ecosystem. Now you don't have that. You're covering a base, where all the dirt is. The dirt underneath is all packed in. You're not having dust in the air. You're not having any sort of serious erosion. You're not having silt running off the trail. It's a huge it's environmentally friendly, which a lot of people don't see that side of it, which is pretty interesting.
You brought up Florida, and I was going to bring up Florida, and I'm bringing it up primarily because of sand. You have a lot of clay where you're at, but a lot of places, I guess one of the current practices when you have really sandy trails is to clay cap your trails so it's more stable, so you can actually ride it on something less than a 3.5 inch, 4 inch wide tired bike, right? So you don't just sink in like you're going to the beach. How has this worked in terms of a sand application? Because I'm assuming it works great, but I don't know.
Go ahead, Jarrod. You got this.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say, we don't have, like true sand like Florida does. But we do have areas where it'll get sandy just from, drainage and stuff. Like as it comes down, you'll get silt, which kind of is sandy essentially. But just in the summertime, we're so dry out there that even though, we don't typically have that kind of sand like Florida does in the summer, a lot of people know this, just like riding out west and stuff, you're still getting moon dust, which basically is sand because it's so dry. And what we've noticed with this stuff is whatever trail we put it over, and that's what's so great about it. You build a trail and you do all the work to get the trail built. It's smooth, it's raked out, it's prime, right? This allows that trail to stay prime no matter what for potentially years. I mean, we're from what we've tested so far, I would imagine this stuff's going to be down for years, maybe some patches here and there. But it allows you to ride over that stuff with fast rolling speed, and the condensation from just being outside, it kind of somewhat keeps that underneath, the dirt underneath, like slightly moist and packed, if that makes any sense. So it's not like you lift it up and then you're just like loose sand, and anybody who's worked with sand knows that, like, if you get sand wet and it's got some moisture in it, you can kind of get it packed. The trick is, having something on top of it that's not going to break it up again. And so that's what this does. It's almost like, if you can think of like a very thin sheet of plywood, if you had very, thin sheets of plywood over sandy straightaway, well, you're going to accelerate, you're going to roll fast, and then when you do actually push into a turn, it's not breaking up underneath you because you've got, you've got a lot of grip and traction with the material that we have on top. It's very, very confidence inspiring, regardless of whether it's rained or if it's, freeze thaw underneath that. It doesn't really matter what's underneath it. That's what's been so great about this stuff. It's an absolute game changer for us, and to be able to ride like in all of these conditions, that's why it's such a huge deal to have these on the flow trails, because flow trails they're meant to be flowy and smooth and, not marbly and loose. And I hear people go, oh my God, I can't imagine wrecking on that. It's like, dude, if you just wore elbow pads or knee pads, even if you're too cool to wear elbow pads, which I get, I am too most of the time. but it's like, you're just going to hit it and slide basically. But that's way better than hitting marbly, loose, jaggedy rocks that are just going to rip your freaking skin open, So yeah, I mean, everybody will look for whatever reason to not like it. But then it's like, you ride it and then it's like, oh man, this is good. That's just kind of been the general consensus of people that have ridden it. They're like, man, this is awesome. I love this stuff. And, we don't want it everywhere, obviously, but where it makes sense to put it, yes, like we're absolutely going to put it in those spots. And I just think overall, it's just been a game changer, not just for us, but just for people that come to the park and ride, because they know that it's going to be consistent.
You guys brought up different models or different types. What prompted the different types, and maybe you could explain what the differences are between the couple different types of trail armor that you have.
Josh, yeah. Josh is great at this because this is what he does all day, explaining the different materials. And
Josh is going to have a career in carpet sales at some point, and he's just going to say, screw you, Jarrod, I'm going to sell carpet.
Nah, we'll bring Jarrod along. It's cool because there's so many different applications, right? Like for some people, if they're just looking to just do a lip, we have a V1, which is a medium back style trail armor. It's not going to take up as much abuse to heavy braking or load. So that's just going to be for more of like an all around, like just lip based takeoff. Some people, like if they have like very small tabletops, sometimes we'll recommend that. But majority of the time, we call that V1 or V2. And the reason these things have changed is just, once again, it's like the evolution of a bike park. We utilize it for a certain amount of time, and we just realized there's a better solution to it, and we just have through time just changed what our product is to make it better for a longer lasting stance with the trail. V2 is going to be our most popular. We call it a heavier backed trail armor, which the topping is actually a tighter woven type topping. It actually uses 3 times the amount of yarn, but it's tight. When they weave it, it's so tight that it actually rolls faster than the V1. And then the backing is a thicker backing, which when I say thicker, it's not like an inch thicker, it's like millimeters thicker, but the type of resistancy that it has to heavy braking and heat, it doesn't tear. So really we've pushed the V2 product to most people that are going to have any sort of beginner to intermediate riders riding over that surface, heavy landing points, braking points, berms. You know, we've had several people that have been like, oh, well, what if they try and, you know, the famous word trout a turn? We had one of our employees who is notorious for doing such test it out. And all it does is it merely burns like the fabric on top, and it doesn't even actually burn it. It just leaves a small tread mark, and that's it. It doesn't actually like affect the carpet whatsoever. And like I was making a mention about senior discount earlier, that's really where we came up with the different styles of trail armor. Because when we lay this carpet on this landing, this poor landing just gets myrtleized by every person that goes over.
Myrtleized? That's a new word.
Yeah, it's but yeah, it just gets absolutely just destroyed, you know, from people who are getting comfortable jumping to people who are good at jumping, and when they land on it, they're always braking, like heavy braking. You know, we had to come up with something that wouldn't tear, you know, obviously if we were going to sell it to the public. And when we realized that the V1 was doing well, but after a sustained amount of heavy braking, it would start to burn through a little. And we're like, okay, we have to come up with something else before we can, you know, start trying to sell this to people. So the V2, we really recommend the V2 to pretty much every application. That has been our biggest seller. And I really just push people to that because, you know, for most applications, you're going to see a beginner, intermediate rider. An advanced rider, it's not really meant for, like, the target audience isn't an advanced rider because most of the advanced riders are going to be braking in the proper places. And then our third is a eco trail armor, which is the one that's state park friendly. The other ones don't really release any plastic. None of them are porous, so they don't let water through them. But the eco one has just been tested multiple times by different states, test labs, to make sure it's safe for a state park and it won't cause any damage. So that one is just specific for state park use. We've tested it on our trail backwoods, and it actually is equally as strong, if not stronger, than the V2. It's just a slightly more expensive product just due to the fact that it is an eco-friendly product. And we only have that in one color just because it takes a lot to be able to develop something like that. And it's just easier to keep it in brown. That's the biggest thing. So we have 3 different versions. We have a medium backed, a heavier backed, and then an eco-friendly style.
You just brought up colors and my brain went to like 1980s roller rinks.
Oh yeah. So we really only offer a couple of colors. The medium back stuff, it can come in any color you imagine, right? It could come in green, blue, red, white, beige, gray, black, brown, you name it. The heavier back stuff really only comes in beige, gray, or brown. We try to keep it as close to like dirt color as possible. Obviously, you can't make clay colored carpet. It just doesn't really exist. But the brown stuff is a slightly darker carpet, so that way it just tries to blend in as best as it can. We've had several customers in the Minnesota and Wisconsin areas that have more of like a sandy-based dirt, which they prefer the beige because that looks more like the color of the dirt they ride on. So we try to keep it within a close proximity of what the color of the dirt is. So that way, you know, your eyes aren't having to adjust as you roll over it every single time.
So I'm sitting in Wisconsin right now and I can look out my window and see Minnesota. Not kidding. With that being said, what have been some of your customers for this? If you can talk about some of the customers you've had so far, and have you had any feedback from those customers? Obviously, extensive testing at Jarrod's place, but you know, how's this stuff been doing out in the real world outside of your, you know, test facility and bike park?
Yeah. So everyone knows Trek Bicycle Company, right? So in Waterloo, they have their own trail system for Trek. It's a jump line that they have right near the factory. They've purchased from us. They had a really good go with it. Localized Bike Park in Minnesota. I don't know if you've ever heard of them. Olivier, he's bought in several loads of it from us. Bogachá State Park down in Louisiana. They just did a thing with Backyard Builds, that gentleman. from YouTube. They have purchased multiple times from us. Howler Bike Park. We've also had Wildside, which is in Gatlinburg. They just bought some from us as well. We've had a lot of different bike parks across the U.S. We're working with Woodward at the moment for going into the summertime. Woodward,
Zorba
yeah,
too. Yeah.
we've had a lot of big like Sorba chapters. We've had a lot of just all sorts of different customers, to be honest with you. Just any person that's really looking to protect a jump trail is really the customers who we see reaching out to us. And like we said, once again, it goes back to the use case. Like if it's just a pure downhill park, they're not really probably going to reach out to us because it's just technical terrain. It doesn't really need the carpet, right? As to where, like, if you have any sort of jump trail, any trail builder knows your jump trail is only going to be nice for so long. So, this is really to protect those more open areas.
It's an investment. I mean, building a trail is an investment. It's a big investment. And I know sometimes it's easier to, you'll get a grant to do an initial build, but they're not thinking about trying to do the work to get that money to do the maintenance. Because once you do the build, yeah, that's great. But bam, you got 2 or 3 rains, breaking bumps, all that. A lot of people don't think about that. But from a trail builder standpoint, I would look at it as an opportunity to be able to provide something new to a client and be like, look, if you're going to invest and make this huge investment into this, let's do it right. Let's protect it once we get the trails done and keep it as good as it possibly can be. And charge for it, charge to put the stuff down. It's, you can get lazy with it and make it look sloppy, but you can also do a really, really good job with it and get creative and make it really, really look good too. And if you do it right, it actually looks like it's part of the landscape.
Let's talk about install and repair, and then we're going to go into like what the investment actually is. But you just brought up, if you do it right, you can make it blend into the landscape. How is that install?
Install is actually pretty easy. You definitely want, I would say, depending on how big the trail is, we kind of look at trails, we've got 6 foot wide, 8 foot wide, and 12 foot wide. Well, at the park, most of our flow trail stuff is going to be 12 foot wide. You want there to be enough material to overlap or to shingle off on the sides. So, like your track pad, you'd want a high side drain, a low side drain. And then you want that stuff to go over the track pad and then just shingle over the sides so that when the rain comes down, you just always are thinking in terms of, like a shingled roof, basically. Because the point is, obviously, you don't want the water going underneath it. So, putting it down, it's really not that hard. You do have to plan it out a little bit and you need to go, okay, my jump is 6 feet tall. I want it to start at the flat and go all the way up the transition and then over the backside of the transition again, right? Shingle. So, you'll have to walk it off and go, okay, I need, 30 linear feet on the transition and I need another 30 or 40 linear feet on the landing, So, you kind of plan it out like that. And then we've started with smaller stakes, but really our go-to now is 12-inch galvanized stakes. And then we'll use washers with those as well. And then just a small mallet to hammer that down. But there are other ways you can do it to make it look really, really good. We haven't done this yet, but I would really like to order some pallets of some like flagstone, flatstone, whatever people call it, and do some borders with that because that'll weight the stuff down and your path will it'll look cool. But it's also easy because nothing's staked in the ground. You're just literally sliding over your flat stone. And then, if you got to do a repair, you just pull it up, you do your repair, and then you throw it back down and put your flat stone, just do a flat stone border. That's not necessarily going to work in every situation, but definitely in flat areas or areas where it's not a berm. I think they would look good on the top of a berm, and then maybe do the bottom as well, and then do stakes in the berm to keep it tight. But really, I mean, you could get super creative with this stuff. I mean, you could even, I had a trail builder in Arkansas, we were talking about some different ideas. He had some ideas about actually covering some of it up with dirt and really making it look, like it's part of the landscape, which you could do because the material is very, very durable. It's basically all a derivative of marine grade. It's all marine grade, right? So you could do stuff like that with it. This is so new. We just, we haven't been able to do all of those things yet, but eventually, yeah, you'll see us doing more kind of creative stuff like that and get more, prettier pictures and things like that. Because, at the end of the day, yeah, is it functional and does it work? Yes. But also you want it to look good, And so how you put it down plays a big role into, what people's thoughts are going to be when they see it. Cause it's all about first impressions, before they've even wrote it, if it looks cool, it's like, that's a huge selling point.
What about repairs? I think I saw somewhere that you can actually patch it.
Absolutely. Yeah. You can do it either from the bottom or on the top. And it's essentially a glue that you do. You just cut you'll basically cut a square and then you'll glue it on and just let it sit. I mean, I think if I had to guess, I don't know, maybe 5-10 minutes, it's pretty much good to go. But you can also do it from underneath. We've never done it from underneath. To be honest with you, I don't even think we've actually patched anything yet. We know how to do it, but we just haven't really had such an issue that we've had to do it yet. But
haven't really had to do it yet. Easiest way to do it is going to be pulling up the section that has a small tear in it. You use like a turf adhesive, and then you'd use a heat gun. You'd heat up that section that you're going to patch underneath of it. You add that adhesive, you heat it up with that heat gun, and when you apply it, you lay it back down, and it takes maybe 10 minutes for it to adhere, and it's like brand new again.
What are we talking for an upcharge in terms of cost? And I do want to preface this. We're recording this at the end of January in 2025. And so if inflation happens and you're listening to this in 2035, it might be more expensive or not.
Well, inflation will definitely happen. That's the world we live in. But yeah, Josh, you probably remember the prices better than I do.
And if you want to break it down from maybe, you don't have to go like it's, $1.99 per square foot. Like maybe just throw out some general numbers there, just give people an idea of what what they'd be looking at.
Yeah, for sure. So, I mean, the pricing is pretty straightforward. It comes in 6, 8, or 12 foot widths. And the way we price it is if it stays the same. It doesn't matter whether you're buying 6, 8, or 12 foot widths. It's all based on how many linear feet that you're going to get. So if you're buying less than 500 linear feet, it ends up being, for the medium back stuff, 99 cents per square foot. The heavy back stuff is $1.19 per square foot. And then the eco stuff is $1.24 per square foot. And then if you're getting over that 500 linear foot mark, you end up getting a 10-cent discount per square foot. So it's still relatively affordable, to be honest. It's actually very affordable in the long run. I mean, to give you a breakdown, having to fix senior discount is anywhere from like $7,000 to $10,000, depending on labor, timing, diesel, machine use, tools, to be able to fix that trail, which is about a 1,400 linear foot trail, if I'm not mistaken. And us not having to do that 3 times a year will pay itself 3 times the amount, realistically speaking. And that's the easiest way I can use that with our customers that I speak to most of the time. So, and it's all, if you're buying 6, 8, or 12 foot widths, once again, the square footage doesn't, like the price per square foot doesn't change. It's always the same price.
Well, and that doesn't even talk about the value that Jarrod brought up earlier, which is the confidence and inspiration that it brings, and just the experience that it has with it for especially those beginner and newer riders, right?
Definitely. 100%.
Yeah, absolutely. I've heard a lot of guys, I watch the park like a hawk. I'm constantly going around observing. I'm just a big sponge, listening to people's feedback, watching them from afar up in a tree. Nah.
Little Jarrod stalker.
Yeah, I got my little binoculars out. No, but I mean, I can tell not only by what I've been told, but I really like talking to the riders that are, not really good yet. They're just, you can tell they're just they're still timid. And it's nice to talk to those riders about it because the feedback that I get is that it's very confidence inspiring for them. They feel more comfortable on it. And it makes sense because, yeah, it's like we've got one trail right now that we've just haven't been able to get to revamp because it's not armored, right? So it's super marbly, it's loose, it's chattery, there's rain ruts and stuff. So yeah, it's easier for them to ride on these things that are covered as opposed to not. So, we're about to start to revamp that trail. It's just the weather here has been terrible. So once we do, we'll get that covered too. The amount of money it's going to save us is just astronomical because we've got 4 very, very popular flow trails and then a set of tables. Well, actually 5, technically 6. So yeah, I mean, it's going to save us so much money. I don't know. I just think there's just too many positives for it for us. And, it's never about us trying to start some other business. It's more so of just how can we afford to operate at, the level that we want to operate. And that's really what it's been mostly about. And for us, it's just like, okay, if we can sell enough to cover our whole park, the stuff, the flow trails, I'm saying, then that's a win, for us.
You're not going to cover Gravelanche or Amish country with it?
Nah, but I mean, if there was like a big jump on there or something, then yeah, we would probably do the jump. But no, I mean, yeah, we definitely still have that element of raw downhill, or enduro, whatever you want to call it. Some people call it enduro, some people call it downhill, whatever. You're riding a bike down a hill, so I just call it downhill.
What about hauling it into the woods? That's going to be a question that a lot of builders are going to have. Like, my brain goes to, if you're in a situation where you actually have to provide some sort of improved surface, we'll say, there's going to be a factor of hauling whatever it is into the woods that you're trying to haul into the woods to improve a trail tread surface, right?
Yeah, you could just drag it into the woods pretty simple. Depending on how wide of a path you've got. I mean, we haul that stuff around with either a side by side. We'll just we just roll them into like little burritos basically, and just throw them in the side by side or throw them in the truck. But I mean, technically, you could just get one of those. I don't know what they're called, but it's like a plastic thing that you can just throw things on and pull it with your 4-wheeler, and it just slides. So you can slide whatever. It could be rock, it could be wood, it could be whatever. It's not hard to get the material. You just cut them into smaller pieces if you have to, and yeah, and then just pull them into the woods, slide them or drive them. But yeah, they're not bad. Now, the rolls are pretty heavy when you get them. We get them in like what do we get, Josh? Like 200-foot rolls or something?
Yeah, we try not to go bigger than 300 feet, especially if it's a 12-foot wide section. I mean, they're several hundred pounds, and then we've created our own cutting jig out of steel. And then we don't cut them longer than like 50 feet sections. Once you get past that 50-foot mark, they're pretty hard to manipulate. But between 2 guys, like for instance, like cutting a 50-foot section and moving it, that's usually going to be the heaviest that you want to go. And the way we cut it is we always cut it upside down, and then we'll flip it over and roll it up to where the backing side's out, walk it up to the top of a landing, and let the magic carpet roll out.
And we'll put some videos out on that stuff too. As we delve further into this, we're going to make some videos, and we'll have like an install video essentially, and just show how we cut it and move it around and that sort of thing, just to make it a little bit easier for people.
Is this where maybe Jungle Recon makes a reappearance and does that how-to installs?
Hell yeah. I haven't said that in so long, but he could get some advice. I don't know that anybody would want to hear it, but yeah.
That'd be good stuff. Some people know what I'm talking about. Some people won't. Maybe you'll have to Google search it and be enlightened.
Yeah, it's old at this point. It still circulates, though. It's pretty weird how there's like millions of views on things that I just get sent sometimes, and I'm like, damn, I can't believe people are still listening to this. Just, I don't know.
It's good. At least it's good if you're, if you're a Gen Xer like you and I, right?
Yeah. We old.
We are old.
How old are you? I didn't even ask.
46 going on 47.
Oh man, you're so young. You got you got your whole 40s in front of you.
Yeah, something like that.
I just turned 49, so yeah, it's I don't know. Everything hurts all the time.
I was just thinking, last week somebody sent me like a movie montage of like all the best movies from the 80s. And I'm telling you, like, nothing beats what we had for movies growing up. You know what I mean? You pull in the whole Rockies,
dude.
the Chuck Norrises.
We had some great ones, yeah. Man, Red Dawn was my man. That was Red Dawn when that thing came out. I've just always just dreamed of having a ridge. And I guess now we're just gonna be battling freaking drones or whatever AI bullshit gets thrown at us. But yeah, back then it was the Russians you were invading, and you just grew your little mullet out, took your crew with you up into the hills, and your AK-47s, and man, was it that movie? Well, any movie with Patrick Swayze is gonna be pretty good. I wasn't into Dirty Dancing because I'm a heterosexual male, but
Yeah, but
it was art, I guess.
Big Trouble in Little China.
Oh God, yeah, that one. I don't remember much about that movie, but I definitely remember the movie. Yeah, we had so many, man. E.T. was one. E.T. was probably one of my favorite movies of all time.
E.T. was good. I'll tell you one of my favorite movies is totally sidetracked this, which is fine. Over the Top with Sylvester Stallone.
Yeah, that was the arm wrestling movie, wasn't it?
Who would think about making an arm wrestling movie?
Was it Sylvester Stallone that was the truck driver in that one?
Oh yeah, 100%.
Yeah. Well, we also had, Smokey and the Bandit. God, there's just so many good ones. I feel like everything now is just like a crappier version of like the movies that we had.
Yeah.
And then all those titty movies back in the 80s too, like the Porkies and anything that, all you'd have to do to get people to watch a movie back then was just show like a little bit of chest. And every young boy was just like, oh, I got to watch that movie. Porky's, oh man, there's so many of them. And it was always the same storyline too. It was always like, there was the jocks and the nerds and the hot girl the dork couldn't get, but I don't know. It was just so.
Yeah, that's even the tagline for like the Karate Kid.
Oh, dude, I forgot about it. And you know what's funny is that new series actually was real. I watched that Cobra Kai. I didn't think I was gonna like it, but man, they did a really good job with that. I got really sucked into that.
Well, the fact they could bring back like pretty much all the main characters.
That was pretty awesome. Yeah. And I normally don't watch anything like, well, I don't have time. It's, but for whatever reason, I don't know. I just would go to sleep at night watching that Cobra Kai thing. And I just thought they did a really, really good job with it.
Yeah. Well, we've totally taken this thing off the rails, which is really good. Before we wrap this thing up, there's some other stuff going on at the bike park. You have art installations. I saw like a new portal. Maybe you can get a portal to take us back to the 80s movies instead of just finding your socks.
Yeah, that's Josh's. Really, Josh is the one that hooked all that stuff up. So yeah, I'll let him talk about that because he's the man that got all that cool stuff going out there. We don't even have it all up yet. So yeah, Josh, you can tell him about all that cool stuff.
Yeah, so one of my good buddies, or two of my good buddies, his name's Greg Mike. He owns ABV Gallery in the city of Atlanta. It's a very, very famous and popular gallery. They do tons of street art. They put on huge events. Like there's an event every year called Outer Space Project where they add new murals around the city. And Atlanta is very, very famous for all of the street art that we have throughout our downtown area. And they were moving galleries. Greg bought this really cool old church and blacked it out and made it modern. And it's this huge, expansive space to do like art shows and all sorts of cool things. And they were moving and they had all these huge 4x8 panels that add together to make these cool art pieces. And I had been talking with him and my good friend Ash, who's his assistant, and he's a really great artist in his own right. And they didn't know what they were going to do with them. And I was like, man, you could just donate them to the park. We'd make art at the park. And that was just kind of like the gist of how it became. And that actually that whole conversation ended up taking about 2.5 years of when they were working on their new gallery and getting things ready. And it finally came to fruition. And those pieces of art have been sitting in my shipping container for a few months now. And with all the weather we've been getting, we finally were able to start hanging stuff up. And the ultimate game plan there is to have a big event once a year to hang more art up, and have live art going on at the park and have a cool event that's based around that. And also just being one of the first places, mountain bike related, to have just art. I mean, we spend all this time driving and going out to ride bikes, and sometimes family members don't ride bikes, right? And they don't have anything to do. So it's just kind of integrating an art gallery to the bike park for people who are hiking around or riding bikes. And it's just about catching cool content with it. And really, we just want to be able to just be different, and all of us, Jarrod, myself, a lot of the guys, we just like cool art. And we have over 70 different art pieces, which one art piece could be 8 foot by 8 foot. And we have one that's at the drop off right now that's 32 feet long by 8 feet tall. So, there's all sorts of different things. All of these artists are from all over the world, very famous artists. And all of these pieces are been donated from, early 2000s all the way up until recent. And it's just really cool to be able to integrate something that I love, which is art. I mean, if you came to my house, it's a small art gallery itself. And just being able to give people an opportunity to go walk around, check out cool things, and just change it up for once. It's not just all about just, hey, let's go get gnarly and ride bikes. It's like, hey, there's cool art involved. And the amount of media that you can produce with that art while riding bikes is, I don't know, it's pretty cool. And it's just different, and just adds a different element to the bike park for us, at least, so.
You're truly building a great community, right? It's not just about riding bikes, and you're getting people to think about different things while they're riding bikes, which I think is just incredible. So thank you for that.
Of course.
Yeah, absolutely. We love it, man. It's in the community aspect of it is, man, that's so important to me. I know, Josh feels the same way too, I'm sure, but like, yeah, it hits you on just a totally different level when you see like the impact that the park is making for a lot of these kids that they don't realize it right now. They won't realize it till they're, much older, but you're giving these kids these memories that they're just going to stick with them the rest of their lives. And to be able to have a place where, a mom or mom and a dad can come ride with their kids, man, that's just so powerful, and we see a lot of the same people every single weekend. It's become a huge part of people's lives. And I just don't, the selfish part of me is just like, yeah, about the trails and riding, but I think ultimately that's the legacy, is like, okay, let's build something that's like going to be here forever, that is just going to keep giving over and over and over again, because there's certain people in my life that are no longer here, unfortunately. But if it wouldn't have been for them taking me to races and stuff, because I was just a shit kid, and like they would take me to races and took a chance on me, and I would be on my, I don't want to say my best behavior, but I would, I always appreciated the ability to be able to go to BMX nationals and stuff. And we did cause a lot of problems and mischief and stuff, but we respected like John Cavacci, which he's no longer with us, but he was a wheel builder and had a really good BMX team back in the day. And man, he just helped so much, had such a massive influence on my life and kept me out of trouble. And if we could do that at the park and give kids like something to set goals for and have fun, because riding is just so powerful. It keeps you sane. It'll also, bite you, but man, overall, I can't imagine life without riding,
I agree 100%. That's a good way to close this one out. Do you have anything you want to close with, Josh?
Nah, I mean, Jarrod couldn't have said it any better, honestly.
Yeah. Well, Josh and Jarrod, man, I really appreciate the fact that you're able to open up about what trail armor is and actually tell the long form story of how it came to be, that it isn't just another piece of carpet that came out of the carpet capital of the world in Dalton, Georgia, but you actually are testing it. You have different versions of it. It has real life applications. And I think, in a time where mountain biking specifically is really taking off and you're seeing it in more public places, building is happening at a rate that we've never seen before. Maintenance doesn't occur, as he brought up, because it's almost impossible to keep up with what's getting built. It's just a really good product that I'm glad you guys have taken a chance on. And I know, at least I hope, more trail builders and more, communities that are into trails really take a look at this and really, dive into why they would buy it and incorporate it so we can do more riding and less maintenance.
Yeah. And feel free to call us, send an email to Josh. Like everything kind of runs through Josh on the trail armor side. He kind of handles all that stuff. So if you ever just want to, I just tell people, come ride, just come to the park and ride it and stuff. And you'll get a really good idea of like what it's about. And let us know, like come ride and say, hey, I want to talk to you about this. And, we can answer whatever questions, but the biggest thing is just getting on it and riding it. And I think that's where people will be like, oh, okay, I get it now.
Yeah. And if you can't get to Jarrod's place, get to one of the other parks that are using it, right?
Yeah, it's starting to be. I mean, yeah, and there's another place we sold to down south of Atlanta. There's some jumps down there too. Standing Boy, I think that's what it is.
Yeah.
That it, Josh?
I think so. I think that's the name. It reached out to us. I don't know if we've closed that deal yet, but there's a lot of places that are starting to take on, reaching out to us. If you do want to reach out to us, it's just info@jarrodsplacebikepark.com. And or just, if you just want to shoot us a message on Instagram, I'll make sure we respond, or Jarrod will respond with our email and get it all written up for you, man.
Yeah, we can ship worldwide too. And it's really only, you're looking at like a 2-week turnaround. I mean, sometimes quicker than that, but I just safely say like a 2-week turnaround. So yeah, it doesn't take long to get it. With a little issue, I think weather and stuff will kind of mess us up a little bit recently, but for the most part, yeah, it's pretty quick to get the product.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if you're coming up to Wisconsin, I mean, honestly, like if what I read on the internet is correct, 90% or almost 90% of the carpet in the world is made right in Dalton. So obviously carpet's getting shipped all over the world.
Yeah, I know it's a lot. Yeah, which was super irritating when it took me 8 months to get just to get somebody on the freaking phone. But it's cool. Our manufacturer's amazing, and we work hand in hand with him for like I said, for 2 years now, and it's a special thing. It's like. And we knew we had to lock it in. That's what we got, an exclusivity contract with our manufacturer. And I mean, he doesn't sell to the public anyway, but like we knew if we could get this thing dialed in that, it'd be a big deal. So I got to say thanks to him because like I said, he's really kind of gone above and beyond working with us. And, this isn't like some huge moneymaker for them. So for the fact that he's been willing to work with us on it is really cool, but his kids are also kind of getting into riding now too, which is really cool. And I feel like in this industry, it's great to work with people that are somewhat involved in the industry, because it's not just a money thing. It's more like, okay, they've got more of an invested interest in it. So, and he's actually starting to ride a little bit himself now too, which is awesome. So yeah, try to keep it in the family as much as we can.
You have anything you want to close with, Josh?
Yeah, just if you guys ever get a chance to go check out a bike park with the trail armor, or just you're able to come visit us, we'd love to see you all. And whenever you get the opportunity to ride it, just keep an open mind and realize that this is a bigger thing than just us. It's not just about us. It's about being able to create a community that has consistent riding year round. So I think that's the coolest part about all of it. And thanks to everyone that supports everything that Jarrod and I do, because this is truly just a dream becoming a reality. So big shout out to all of you all.
Yeah. Well, you guys have taken a chance on building a really awesome thing there in Georgia. And I know I really appreciate, looking at it from afar up here in Wisconsin. And I know I'll be back to Jarrod's place. It's been a while. I was there the first year you guys opened, and I got to get back there.
Let us know. Yeah, shoot us a message before you come down.
Oh, for sure. And for those wanting to reach out, I'll put the info at Jarrod's place in the show notes as well. So
awesome.
Well,
yeah. Thanks so much, man.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for listening. If you like what you've heard, please take the time to share these shows with others. Sharing these shows will help create awareness of both the guests who have taken the time to be on the show and the podcast series itself. Also, if you're new to the Trail Effect podcast, check out our ever-expanding library of episodes. If you listen to the Trail Effect podcast on Apple or Spotify, please don't forget to leave a rating and review, as this is one of the best ways to show our support for the Trail Effect podcast. Also, don't forget to check out Cooley Creative at www.dudejustsendit.com. For additional ways to help support the Trail Effect podcast, check out the affiliate links tab at the Trail Effect website, where you'll find links to Kettle Mountain Apparel, Worldwide Cyclery, and Trail One components. By using the affiliate links found at www.traileffectpodcast.com, a small commission will come back to the podcast, which will help keep this thing going. This podcast has been edited and produced by Evolution Trail Services. Thank you again for listening.